Hey everybody, this is Ballin with Bill Danenhauer here, presented by Sideline Power. It's great to have everybody here today and be part of the show. I have a special guest that's done a lot for Omaha and their sports here, OPS, UNO, and been a big part of Omaha, Nebraska sports, and it's related to me. Somehow, we're not for sure, but we were roommates for a dang long time. So we know each other very well, but Bob Danenhauer, thank you very much for being with us today.
Well, thank you, Brother Bill. Appreciate the opportunity. Look forward to it.
Okay. Hey, just want to start because I know we both played football there at UNO for Sandy, and we went on. And I know you got into coaching about the same time I did, and you started at Millard North. So it's not hard to figure out, Dad's, why we both got into coaching. So we grew up with a fellow coach, and
Right.
been around sports since we were knee high to a grasshopper. So,
Yep.
But anyway, so tell me about how you got started at Millard North and in your coaching career at Fort Hays and all that.
You bet. So following playing at UNO and getting the education, got into teaching and coaching, and it was interesting because Brother Bill stayed at UNO for a couple years, then went to St. Cloud State University in Minnesota, and at the same time, that opportunity was afforded to myself to go to St. Cloud with Bill. Bill was the O coordinator, and Noel Martin asked if I wanted to come up and be the D coordinator for St. Cloud at the time. And I had just started at Millard North High School, and Shelly and I had our son Bobby at the time, and just felt it was best with regard to what I wanted to do was to stay down the high school path. So I taught at Millard North High School and coached football there, and was also the head wrestling coach, and was Fred Petito's D coordinator.
First D coordinator.
Yeah, and Fred's still there to this day. But coached Mark Chavez, who's the D coordinator now, in the mid '80s. But anyway, so I started coaching at Millard North. Had a great time. Coached there 6 years, and then wanted to be a head coach. And first opportunity that was afforded to me was in Hays, Kansas, which is about the same size as Kearney, Nebraska. Matter of fact, it's just south of Kearney by 2 hours. And Dad had an old friend from college that was well known in the Hays area called Stromgren, Tom Stromgren. His company, Stromgren Supports, would make ankle braces, elbow braces, things like that. And his his manufacturing company was out of Hays. So anyway, went down there and interviewed for the job and got it. So I was the head coach for Hays High for 3 years. Got my master's down there at Fort Hays State in ed administration, not knowing what I wanted to do, but wanted to get my master's because in education, as you guys know, it does help the old salary to go across the old salary schedule. The more educational hours you can get. So got my master's in ed administration, and at that time, Sandy was leaving UNO, and Tom Mueller was
coming. Tell us about one of your assistants. So one of your good assistants, he coaches at McCook. He's one of our best customers.
Jeff Gross.
That's where I first met Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff Gross was going to school at Fort Hays, getting his degree, and I enjoyed hiring. I had Jeff Gross. I had Brian Collier from Bethany, who is out of coaching now, but he coached at Pacific U with Walt Harris and Chuck Shelton before he ended up going into the private sector. But yeah, Jeff approached about coaching while he was finishing his degree, and I said, heck yes. He was a Hays High alum, and he was good friends with the late Bob Kuhn, who was my D coordinator. And so Jeff was on the staff for 3 years. We had a great time. Jeff gets a little excited, and we had a lot of fun. We really did. He still is close to our family, and for some reason I trusted him to babysit our two kids when Shelly and I would go out in Hays, Kansas. He and Kent Teeter, who's down in Holcomb, Kansas. But yeah, Jeff's a good man, and that was going back to '89 to '92.
So when I first met Jeff.
Yeah, and then he got the McCook job. He's probably been down there a good 20, 25 years now.
Yeah, he's principal too there.
Yeah, yep. And his son's now at Kearney.
That's right.
Playing football. He left South Dakota's at Kearney to play this year.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So anyway, then moved back to Omaha because Sandy Buddha had left, and Tom Mueller came in to be the head coach, and Tom said, "Why don't you come back and be one of my assistants?" So Ross Ells, who played at UNO, and I don't know where Ross is at now, but I remember he coached at Lincoln. And
Played
he coached,
Northeast,
yeah,
right?
played at Northeast, played at UNO, coached at Nebraska,
Didn't he go
coached
to
at
Ohio for a
Purdue.
while, or not?
Well, he was at Purdue last I
Yeah.
checked as their D coordinator, but I don't know if he's still there or not because they've had some coaching changes. But anyway, came back here, coached at UNO, and then decided I wanted to get into administration. So my first administrative job was Millard South. So in 1994, came back to Omaha in '93, and then a year later I became the athletic director at Millard South High School in '94.
That's when you started administration.
Yep. So I stayed there for a year because then the UNO situation happened in '95 when Dave Cox got let go, and then Don Leahy came back for a year, and Dell asked if I'd come help Don and him and Connie Clausen and be an assistant. So I was an assistant for a year, and then became the AD in '96 and stayed there through '04, and then from there went to Omaha Public in '04, and then retired in December of '14. So I've been retired in some sense, full time, I think I would say, since December of '14. So, but yeah, I mean, I shoot, it's been a lot of fun. Still involved with certain aspects of the game, but try to stay out of it as well.
Well, so tell us, when you were UNO and first took over there, what type of things did you do to get it going? Because it was down at the time
Sure.
when you first took it over.
Sure. So
And you
as
got
Bill,
hockey started, and tell us about
Right.
that whole thing.
so as Bill remembers, from 1990 to '94, UNO football won like 5 games. So not very good at all. UNO basketball won a little bit more over a 5-year period, like 15 games. So our women's sports at UNO were successful: softball, volleyball, basketball, but our men's sports were not.
Right.
So at that time we had the coaching change with Pat Burns. So Pat came in, and Pat came in from Nevada, Las Vegas, and took over as the head job. Pat used to coach at North Dakota U
Right, when we were
when
playing.
Bill and I played.
Yeah.
He was the head coach North Dakota U, and would go around and round with them in the old North Central Conference. But I look at it as it's all about hiring good people. To me, leadership is about hiring good people. I don't care if it's a private or public entity. You want to make sure that you have good quality people. And if you do, and people can build relationships, then you got a shot. Because in college, it's all about recruiting. I mean, you're recruiting every day, as Bill knows, because he did that all the time at Dana College, at Washburn, at St. Cloud. And so that's all you're doing, is trying to find the next best Heisman Trophy winner or the next best Harlan Hill winner, right?
Right.
And so the good thing is with Pat, too, was he had a nice staff. So we brought in Jeff Jamrog. Jeff's still coaching at Midland.
Yeah, football
Jeff was
coach,
our defensive coordinator, had a lot of strong ties to Omaha.
Right.
He's a Mount Michael boy. Brought in Lance Leipold, who's still coaching today
He's
at
head coach of
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
And Lance was a Wisconsin boy.
Right. He played for.
But he was a GA for Barry Alvarez
Right.
on University of Wisconsin staff. Is how Pat found him. So brought him in, and Kevin Leitner was the old line coach.
Right.
Kevin played for Nebraska in the '80s when they were, running that
Powerhouse.
pipeline, and so that's what I always appreciate about Pat, is he had a very quality staff, and it was
He had a good secondary coach too.
yeah, with we had Marvin Sanders,
Marvin
but
came in.
but before that, I forget who we had. God dang it! But then Marvin came in, and kids loved Marvin. Marvin could recruit.
Yeah.
He really could. And so, but all those guys went on to upper level jobs. I mean, Marvin was at Nebraska and did a heck of a job, and Kevin went to Ohio and Vanderbilt, and Jeff coached at Nebraska. So it tells you about the staff that Pat had.
He did a good staff.
And and Mark and Bill, we lost good coaches almost every other year because we are Division II, and their goal is they want to move up and make more money and coach at Division I. So you can't blame them. So we did have a high turnover rate, but we also knew that's just the inevitable with Division II. And then we brought in for basketball, we brought in Kevin McKenna. So McKenna is still coaching to this day with Dana Altman, University of Oregon. He's a Creighton boy.
Did a good, where did he went to Indiana State, in fact, you guys
Yep,
did.
he after us, he went to Indiana State. But another individual that could recruit well. And he had Mitch Mosser on his staff. Darren Hansen, who's the coach now at UNO, was who Kevin hired, and has done very well. And then Kenyon Crandall, who's still coaching to this day. So again, to answer your question, it's all about hiring good people. And sometimes you make mistakes. You do. I mean, you question yourself, Mark, with my brother. But at the same time, you gotta keep going forward. I'm teasing you, but you are gonna make mistakes because we're human. But the other thing too was we looked at three things. The coaches and then facilities, right? Because you got to recruit to facilities. And Bill remembers this. Our weight room was the old ROTC rifle range. So it was downstairs. It had no air conditioning. So it means in these hot summers of Omaha, you did. It taught you a lot, about hard work and sweating. But it wasn't
a great thing to show recruits.
No, it isn't. And so what we did was we added on a 3-story addition to the north of the original field house. So the field house, when Omaha U was around, it was the second building on campus, and nothing had been done to it since the early 40s. And this is 1995, 96. So, and to give you a quick education, it was a dirt floor. So when Omaha U played basketball, they had a portable wooden floor, that they put on the dirt.
Right.
And that's how and then they had portable baskets. But that's where Roger Sayers beat Bob Hayes in the 60-yard dash was in that field house on the dirt floor. Yeah. So great history with regard to Omaha U. But anyway, we felt we needed to upgrade our facility. So we added weight rooms and upgraded the locker rooms and offices so you can recruit to it. And then we wanted to make the last thing was the financial piece. We were not offering the maximum limit of scholarships. So when we got there, Division II is 36. Right. It still is 36, I believe. Yeah, we were like 23, 24. So how can you win in a conference when you're not offering the same amount? It'd be like Nebraska not offering 85 full rides. Yeah. They were offering 75. Well, how do you expect them to beat Oklahoma State, etc.? Okay, in the Big Eight. So we raised money to make sure we could raise the needed scholarships, and then we hired good people. Then, as Bill mentioned, we started hockey in 1996, and we were fortunate because you had the old Civic Auditorium. So the old Civic Auditorium was built in 1954, never had ice. But when you go in there, Bill used to go to the hockey games, you would think, why didn't you ever have ice in this facility? Because it was built on a rise where you downloaded. So you went up and you walked down, and it had great sight lines for hockey. Yeah. So we convinced the city council to spend the money to put ice in the Civic Auditorium, locker rooms, so on and so forth. And they approved that. It came to about $1.82 million to do that. So when we negotiated the contract, it was a 10-year contract. Mark and Bill, we gave them the concessions. So over a 3-year period through beer sales, they paid off that $1.8 million. Because we were going through about 100 kegs a night of beer for hockey, especially when you bring in Michigan, Notre Dame, and people are getting excited in their close games. And we cut off beer sales, start a third period. So we were being responsible. People weren't liking that, but especially if the game went into overtime. So, but no, I mean, it was a good partnership, and we did pay off that debt over a 3-year period. So that means the city then made some money then over the last 6-7 years of the contract. So, gotcha. And that's how. And then we used that. We did make nice money off of hockey. So we felt that to follow rules of Title IX and gender equity, that we added 4 women's sports. So we added women's tennis, women's golf, women's swimming, and women's soccer.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And we had the facility for swimming at Hyper. Yeah. Okay, so we didn't have to worry about building a facility. Soccer doesn't cost much. Where we played soccer was Exarban. Yeah. The old infield over at Exarban was our soccer practice and game field. Yeah. And then tennis and golf, we were nice to be able to use the old Ironwood course. They were nice about that. And then the city of Omaha was good about the tennis court. So it didn't really cost us a lot with regard to facilities for those sports.
So that was a good cost.
And the last thing is, I'm sorry to ramble,
No.
but then you start having success. You think about it. Our volleyball team won a national title in 1996
Right.
in Division II. Football started making the playoffs in 96,
Right.
right?
Right.
And then we kept going. Softball won a national title. Wrestling started winning their
Women's soccer
national
won one
titles.
too, didn't they?
Soccer won a national title in
Right.
04, 05. So yeah. So then the success was helping us, and so it kind of all came together. Which you can't control the outcome of the product, but at the same time, it worked out pretty good.
Yeah. You did it. And it was.
And it was a team effort. It really was. Because Bill, you were there at Dana, and you had to work with regard to what you had to do at
yeah.
Dana College, and with regard to your limitations, just like we have limitations, and what you want to hire good people.
Right. It's a big key.
It
Big
is.
key to your success.
Yeah.
If you can get
Especially at the college level,
Yeah.
because
Well, I think it's important at the high school level too. You look at the
I
programs
agree.
you do there too.
You got to build relationships, you know, with kids, and kids got to want to come out.
Right.
So
I
and
agree.
stay
'Cause you
out.
coached the high school and you knew
Yeah.
same thing when you were at Millard North.
Yeah.
And, hey, get those kids out.
Yeah. And to keep them out.
The hallway and keep them out.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, no question. So you left there and then you went to Omaha. What was the process when you first looked at Omaha OPS sports and what you wanted to accomplish there?
Sure. So I left UNO in '04 and went to Omaha Public Schools to oversee their athletic department. They call the position the supervisor of athletics. And what I enjoyed about it too, and one thing I failed to mention, and Bill knows this, and same with you, Mark, is you got to have good leadership. So I can only go so far. Bill can only go so far. If our leaders try to put up brick walls, then you're spinning your head against the wall, right? And you're hitting your head against the wall, or spinning your wheels, I should say. Then you got to make decisions.
Right.
You know, is this worth it? Because you got to have good leaders. We were fortunate at UNO because Dell wanted athletics to be successful.
Right, he did. He was a good chancellor.
He was. He was very good. God rest his soul. And then when we went to OPS, we had Dr. John McKeel. You had Dr. Jerry Barty. You had Dr. Poole. You had Janelle Mullen, and you had Dr. Howard. But
Was Benning there yet still? Or
no, Benning retired.
And he went to teaching then. He
was down in Lincoln.
Yeah.
But all the people I just named were all former coaches in some way.
Right.
And they believed in athletics. So they said, Bob, we got to get it going. Plus, OPS was losing kids to other school districts, Bellevue, Westside. When Doug Woodard won the state championship the year I came, he had two starters on his team from Omaha North, Dotzler, Omaha North kid. Michael Jenkins, who played for UNO, Omaha Bryan kid. So we had to convince these kids, why are you leaving? Well, number one, we weren't having success. So how can we get success and you feel good about staying? So again, it comes back to let's get good coaches, right? So I'm a big believer, just like Bill is and you are, Mark, let's meet with the people. So I would sit down with all head coaches of every sport in Omaha Public Schools over a period of a year, all right, a couple times a year to say, hey, what do we got to do? You tell me. I'm not trying to tell you what Burke should do or what Brian or North should do, but what can we do? What can I do in Omaha Public to help your sport? So for an example, the football coaches said, Bob, it's killing us not having middle school football because our suburban competitors, those parents were getting their kids to play football at an early age, right? Because they got organized, they did it. And they could afford it, they had the money. I'm not knocking our kids, but that wasn't happening in certain parts of Omaha Public Schools. So we decided, let's take control. So we then spent the money to start middle school football. Smartest thing probably we did was to bring back middle school football for 7th and 8th graders. And so we had to raise the money for the equipment because they were playing flag football. So the money was there for operations and salaries for coaches because they were already getting paid. So what we had to raise was the money for the equipment. So it was a little over $100,000, and we raised that privately. And so we went out and did that. And then over a year's time, we took it upon ourselves to buy all the equipment. And to be honest with you guys, some schools didn't have the storage at the beginning to store all this, nor did they have the appropriate lockers. So we rented for them those big trailers, those hot trailers from Council Bluffs where the kids could, that's where they could put their equipment. That's where they dressed until we could, update facilities so kids could have their own locker rooms. But the coaches felt that we had to start this because if we did not, we were getting kids playing football for the first time as freshmen. A couple head coach told the story that here comes a freshman out for football, and this is what they were looking out of. They would put it on sideways because they didn't know any better. They were looking out the ear holes.
They put their shoulder pads
right, and so that's what we're starting with. Where our suburban competitors, those kids have been playing for 4 or 5 years. So we got that going, and I remember Larry Martin and Jay Ball and Lonnie Tapp saying, "Thank you, because now we have linemen." Because when kids come out as freshmen for the first time, do they want to play linemen? Last thing they want to do. There's a line for receivers, a line for running backs, and a line for quarterbacks. So we started developing linemen through this, that when they came out as freshmen, they're ready to go. And that's what our head coaches felt they were missing at times, were just good quality linemen to go with those good quality skilled kids. And so anyway, and you know as well as I do in life, whether it's a private entity or public entity, what is your competitor doing? What are they doing? Because that's, if they're not choosing you, why are they choosing your competitor? Yeah. I don't care if it's athletics or what have you. Right. So that's what we started looking at is, back then Millard was having was king. Plus they were having both Millard school or 2 out of the 3 middle schools in the finals of each year.
Right.
And so we wanted to try to break that cycle. So that's what we looked at. Same at UNO. When I was at UNO, a gentleman that Bill knows very well, who's one of our best supporters, was David Sokol. He told me, "Bob, get your butt up I-29. Let's go to North Dakota State, North Dakota U, South Dakota State. Talk to those ADs. How are they doing it? How are they winning every year in these athletics? What are they doing? Go look at their facilities and then bring it back and we'll put it together." So it hasn't changed. It's to me, it's all about what are your competitors doing,
right?
And how can you do it a little bit better? What is your niche? So you can do it better.
Right. Very true. That's
true. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're good.
Is it 30 minutes up?
No, we're still rolling.
I'm teasing, Mark.
But anyway, so when you're looking at this, the big thing I knew when I was at Dana, when I'd come and visit coaches, is how much the facilities changed during this time. So how did you accomplish that? Because every school, before you know it, had field turf on their field, and they used to be beat up grass like Dana and stuff. Right. And then the season with the storm and the weather you had. So what did you do to? Because I look at that, because you changed their weight rooms and all that stuff.
Right. So what we chose to do, we had another donor by the name of Dave Van Meter. So we had Sokol at UNO. And to me, you always got to have somebody who believes in what you're doing, that either has the affluency or can influence people to give money, right?
Right. And
both these guys had both. So when we got to OPS, we sat down with the superintendent, John McKeel, Dave Van Meter, and I, and we said, hey, we want to start renovating our facilities. Because in Omaha, if you look at now, there isn't a field that doesn't have field turf. And that's not necessarily the case in Lincoln. I mean, they don't have a lot of field turf fields in Lincoln.
Right.
Okay. We're starting to get some, but look at all the field turf fields across Nebraska now. And so I think
just built theirs too.
Who did?
Palmyra just. Yeah. They had a nice donor that really helped them out.
So I think what's happened in Omaha is we kind of spike things in the Metro Conference, because now you look at it, I think there's 16 field turf fields in Omaha, which is great for the high schools. I know in OPS only Omaha North's got a field turf field. It's just not a varsity field.
Right.
Right, because they share with Northwest.
Right.
But everybody else has got their own stadium. Okay. Millard North shares Buell.
Right. With Millard West.
Right.
All share Buell.
But both Bellevue schools have it.
Right.
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 Creighton Prep, I know, has a field turf field, just not for varsity.
Right.
So what we did was we sat down. We were fortunate because Dr. McKeel said, I will donate 25% of Omaha Public School funds, because these are Omaha Public Schools properties, so it benefits the kids we're serving. But I will throw up 25%. You guys raise the other 75%. Well, that was all we needed, because a lot of donors were saying, why am I giving 100%? I will give you money, but OPS should have skin in the game too, because these are OPS facilities.
Right.
So when I came in, Central was being done. Okay. Central was being done, which is now called Seaman Field. All right, and then from there we did South High. So we took a field a year because it's a huge undertaking financially. It's a little over, if you do a drainage system with field turf and do it right, it's between $2 and $3 million, depending upon the drainage system.
Right.
But once you do the drainage system correctly, you never have to replace that. All you got to do is replace the field turf
yeah.
every 8 to 10 years, which that's $200,000-$300,000.
Right.
Okay, but the key is your drainage system. So we mapped out a plan with Dr. Barty, Dave Van Meter, Dr. McKeel, and myself. Every year we did a field. Okay, and we sat down with the ADs because they can be a little bit antsy if, when am I getting mine? Why aren't our next? So we would sit down with them and say, here's what's coming. Okay, and so that's how we approached the field, the stadiums, I would call it. Then we also did baseball, softball fields, and we did baseball, softball fields only if it was OPS. So in OPS, a lot of those schools are landlocked. North is landlocked. Benson's landlocked, South is landlocked, because when they were built, they weren't built on green space. So then we went to the city and said, hey, if we raise the money, can we upgrade those baseball, softball fields? Brown Park, Fontenelle. They said, are you kidding me? Go. They didn't give us any money, but we had to raise that 100% privately. OPS wouldn't give any money because that's not that's not OPS property. Okay. And then we got in the weight rooms because that was Dave Van Meter's baby. He loved upgrading weight rooms because at the middle school and high school, he believed in weight rooms are great for kids, PE classes, after school programs, athletic programs. So he always, every year, we would give money to the ADs to go out and buy new equipment. And we knew technology changed, so we'd have to do equipment. And then we were fortunate because we hosted state track and state soccer, right?
And wrestling too, didn't you, one time?
Yeah, and state wrestling. Yeah. But state soccer and state track, because we did, OPS did the lion's share of setting up and doing the work. The NSA gave us a certain percent of the gate proceeds, right? Which is only fair. Where state wrestling, we did not, because all we did was give them the mats for practice. They did all the work. But state wrestling, we did all the setup, and same with state soccer. So I took, because those are gate receipts, which are considered private dollars, and I reinvested. Whether it was buying headsets, whether it was buying in-zone cameras. So I always had the ADs give me a wish list in the spring of what they wanted me to spend on. Now you got to realize we had 7 high schools. So it's different if you got 3 in Millard or 1 in Westside. Right. So if I've got an extra $80,000 to $100,000, that would go a long way with 1 or 2 high schools. But with 7, so I had an extra 10 to 15 each year. But I'd go through the ADs and say, how you want me to spend it, and what do you need? Because they still have their budgets, right? Mm-hmm. But I always tried to help as well each year. Yeah, I know. Because I think kids like something new each year. Think about when you coached, if you bought sideline jackets or you bought some new helmets. Kids like seeing that. Right. Uniforms every 3 or 4 years. Right. So
that's big.
So we just tried to do that. But we had great leadership in order for us to do that. They didn't stifle that.
And that's the key.
It is.
It is.
So sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. You're rolling good. Now that when you finished OPS and you left and you retired from there, what have you been doing? Because I know you're involved with. You brought what the heck's that thing called?
Curling
here to Omaha. Mark laughs at me because you brought that to Ralston. We're going to have the Olympic swim here probably still this summer because I know Olympics are coming up. You help with that with Dave Rasmussen, and you've helped with a lot of events, big volleyball events. So what all? I know you teach at Bellevue. So kind of tell us what you're doing. I know you're retired, but you're always busy.
Right. But since I retired, one of the first gigs I did was come on a part-time basis with the Omaha Sports Commission. And so I've been doing that since 15. And so I'm not responsible, in all honesty, to bringing these events to Omaha. I help with their sponsors and things like that, and maybe help stage it and work it. But the credit goes to the Omaha sports people, meaning Harold Cliff and Josh Todd. So the trials have been in Omaha since '08. And so Omaha's been fortunate because every 4 years we host the Olympics goes on. We've been able to host the trials, and if you ever go down there and watch them put the pool inside that arena and how they build that up and bring the water in, excuse me, is amazing, because it's a month process to build that pool, because you lose seats because you're building everything up, so you lose seats. But the credit goes to USA Swimming. Loves having the event there. They love how Sports Commission does, and it's kind of been the flagship event for the Omaha Sports Commission.
Yeah.
And then, as Bill mentioned,
The curling, yeah,
the curling. So curling came 4 years ago when that Schuster team
right.
ended up winning the Olympic trials, and then they won the first ever gold medal for USA.
Right.
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 Because we weren't noted for curling when it came. We were noted for speed skating and hockey and things like that. So it's going to be so next spring will be the trials. I should say next summer will be the trials in June. And for swimming, and then the curling trials will be at Ralston Arena next December, so December of 21. So I've been doing that a little bit, but the entertainment and hospitality industry's been hurt quite a bit with COVID.
Yeah.
And so they kind of shut things down. And so I haven't been helping as much, but I've enjoyed that since 15. And Josh Todd, who is the CEO, does a nice job. He's a Fort Hays State boy, played receiver down there in the late the late 90s. But anyway, then I help a guy by the name of Eric Crouch, who wasn't a bad football player. He has a company called Crouch Recreation, does a lot of playground equipment. I help him in the sports division. So he and I'll work with schools that need bleachers, scoreboards, things like that. I teach out at Bellevue U, as Bill mentioned, sports management. Really enjoy that. I've been teaching that for 12 years, taught night classes when I was at OPS and then during the day when I retired. So really enjoy that, and just kind of, we got 6 grandkids and enjoy the 6 grandkids.
The PGA too.
Yeah, so I forgot. So I've been so the PGA has 41 sections. Nebraska is one of the 41 sections. So everybody thinks of the PGA Tour, which is your Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. So that's one piece of the PGA. The sections then, they run programs for kids, the junior program. They run military programs. They run tournaments in their sections. So I help on the foundation side. So it's called PGA Reach Nebraska. So we have PGA Hope, which is a program for military vets. It's called helping patriots everywhere. God dang, is it helping other patriots everywhere? Helping our patriots everywhere. You're gonna have to edit that. Helping our patriots everywhere. So it's a cool program. Doing it for 3 years. So we get a lot of disabled vets that played golf prior to their disability, and they want to come back and learn how to play golf. So we train our pros how to teach or work with the disabled vets, and they're not all disabled, but depending upon if they do have a disability, we have equipment for them, we have gloves for them, so they can learn how to play golf. And so we've been doing that for 3 years out at Eagle Hills in Omaha and Holmes in Lincoln. And we're going to take it to Kearney next year because we want to expand it. Kearney's got that big VA hospital now.
Right.
And so our program, the PGA Hope program, is tied to the VA nationally. So that's how we get our veterans. It's really cool.
It is cool.
And we're going to do and so this is our 3rd year. And then we do a lot of, on the youth side, you guys, we've been doing golf in schools. So what we do is PGA makes equipment called Snag, called Start New at Golf. It's really nice plastic equipment. It's not not knocking Walmart plastic equipment, but so what we do is we train the PE teachers. We bring a pro in to work with the PE teachers. We get them all trained, and it becomes a unit for the PE teacher, and the equipment stays with them. So we raise money for those programs to help run those programs, and that's what I really enjoyed doing the last 3 years. It's probably kept most of my time because of the raising of the funds in these programs, because they've really, especially PGA Hope, has taken off.
Wow.
Really taken off. Matter of fact, Jack Nicholas is the chair. So PGA Reach is the umbrella foundation for all the sections foundations, and he's the one pushing the PGA Hope. He really is.
Jack is.
Yeah, Jack is.
He was a heck of a golfer in his day. So, how does this? Have you been to the new PGA down there in Dallas yet?
No, but we just got.
I know that. Well, I was driving by.
Right, because we just got an email a couple weeks ago in Frisco about because it's supposed to be 27 holes.
I heard it's supposed to be really short.
Yeah, and so the nice thing is we go down there. Like I've been to Orlando and Palm Beach where the meetings, or I should say Orlando where they have the meetings at now. But they do what's called a big merchandise show. Have you heard of the PGA merchandise show? So they do it every year in Orlando at the convention center. And so all the big merchandisers in the golf industry, that's where they bring, that's where all your merchandise comes. So if they got a new driver, or they've got a new putter, or they got new balls, all of them, the Titleists, the Pings, they bring it. And so then all the PGA pros from across the country, they come in. You spend a couple days in meetings, and you spend 3 days, because it takes 3 days to walk around and see all the booths and everything. So that's where they're going to bring it to Frisco.
Okay.
Which will be nice.
I drove by it.
It's going to be gorgeous. Yeah. I think it's going to end up being a $700 million project. So David Honens is our CEO of the Nebraska PGA section. Lincoln Northeast boy, played golf at Wesleyan. He's been our CEO for 10 years, and he helps coordinate some of these things. But yeah, he was telling me that when it gets done, it's going to be a $700 million project. So should be pretty nice. Plus, it'll be easier for us to get to from Omaha, versus Florida.
Yeah, it looked really. They were still.
But you drove by it.
Huge.
Right?
It's just big how it's going to be. It's
going
to be huge.
Yeah, because it's outside of Dallas, right?
South, not too far from where Jerry built his new thing.
In Arlington.
It's not far from there.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Because I've been to Jerry Jonesville.
Yeah, Jerry Jones.
So it's not too far from Arlington. Huh?
No, it's a little bit, not very far, because we went there, then we went out there, and I was just impressed how big it was. It's huge.
Right. Cool. Yeah. So that's been fun. And then what we do, the other thing real quickly that's cool, what we're doing with PGA Hope is, they're called Victory Apartments. So remember Grace University? So Burlington Capital, which is a company here in Omaha, has bought that and has turned those dorms into one-bedroom apartments for the homeless vets. So there's so many homeless vets throughout our country. So what we're trying to do is get the homeless vets their own one-bedroom apartment. They have their own place to live. Doesn't cost them anything. Because what a lot of the veterans don't know is you have benefits with the VA, and you're not aware of that because of your service to the U.S. And so they're able to. They got a big food pantry, so we're tied to that too. Matter of fact, we did a fundraiser 2 weeks ago at Tiburon to raise money for. And we want to continue doing that because hopefully get them off the streets and get their back on the feet and have their own. Because a lot of these guys are living in cars or streets or what have you, or gals, and get them their own one-bedroom apartments.
Yeah. That's very cool. That's good use of a facility.
It is. It really is. It turned out nice. We had a big ribbon cutting. Remember General Kelly, who was Trump's chief of staff?
Oh, yeah.
He came in for the ribbon cutting.
Did he really?
Yeah. Very nice guy. Very nice guy.
Yeah, he seemed like it.
Yeah.
First class.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time. Did a heck of a job, brother.
Well, thanks. How much time do you have left? This is 30? You got some editing to do, Mark. My thanks very much, you guys. I appreciate it. Love my brother. So I've had 2 roommates in my lifetime. Him for 21 years. We roomed. Even when we were in college, we had twin beds in one room.
Yeah.
In the basement.
Busted it up, man.
Busted it up. Matter of fact, our bed frames, our dad got tired of finding welders, so they were on concrete bricks, on blocks. And that's how we left it. And then my other roommates, my wife, Shelley, this will be 40 years in March.
That's right.
2 roommates in my lifetime.
I never forget Mark, it was our senior year. We were playing North Dakota. We got to get on Blue Goose to go out there that morning. And I was taking my time kind of like Mark does here. The same thing. And he was so mad at me. We get in the car. Instead of picking up speed to get to UNO so we can make it to pregame. He drives. He hits every light. Man, we come in there. I thought Coach Buddha was going to kill us.
Buddha stared at us, gave us the evil eye.
What the heck are you two idiots doing?
He said, "Hey, next time he can drive himself." Because I'm the type, wrong, right, or indifferent. Let's get there early. By golly, I remember when I coached and was AD. I like just to walk the field and. Because I have all that nervous energy.
I know.
Now my brother, he wanted to get through the Omaha World Herald before we could leave, Mark. So yeah, but we had it was fun. We were blessed, and our parents are alive today, and we're fortunate, great people.
Yeah.
So it's been good, Bill.
Ready to finish up?
Yep. What we got to do?
Get up here and count 3. 1, 2, 3.
Whoosh, 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 whoosh.
Thank you, brother.
Mark.